Good evening, everyone. This is the third episode of Dead Worldbuilder Society, and I'm so honored that today is October 13th, and I have with me Michael R. Fletcher, the author of the filthiest Grimdark books ever written as per Patrick Leo. So, Michael Fletcher, welcome to this episode. Thank you so much for being here. Could you introduce yourself to our readers?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. I'm Michael R. Fletcher, author of the Manifest Delusions series, Beyond Redemption, The Mirror's Truth, the Obsidian Path series, City of Sacrifice. So apparently I write Grimdark, so I'm told.
So I read Beyond Redemption, and it blew my mind away and made me want to lock myself in my room. And I was having a chat with Mihir from Fantasy Book Critic, and I told him that I would never want to be trapped alone in a room with Michael R. Fletcher. And he told me that he's actually a very nice, caring, warm, and wholesome guy. So, what do you have to say about that concept that people who are not really violent in real life end up writing such beautiful descriptions of unhinged violence?
um, that's a tricky one. So I grew up reading dark fantasy. Grimdark didn't exist back then. Elric, Stormbringer, all of that stuff. And for me, like that sort of defined what fantasy was. Like I grew up on the idea of anti-heroes, heroic fantasy. Like I like some of it, but it's not really my thing. I kind of lean towards the dark stuff, but I'm not a dark person like at all. So I'm not super sure where that comes from, but in spite of my lack of evilness or darkness, I am drawn to those stories. That's the sort of stuff that appeals to me. That's what I want to talk about.
Let me
That's
just
what I want to
reconfirm, you have
explore.
never spent time in prison.
No.
That is surprising.
Yeah, no, never been to prison. I'm actually fairly well behaved.
Well, that's amazing because, like, I love Grimdark for the same reason that it talks about the concept of anti-heroes or people who just faced with brutal choices and they just have to take something which is the best for them and how it is interpreted. Even when I was writing Sons of Darkness, that Grimdark it looks Tolkienish compared to yours. But when I was exploring this concept, I realized that our history itself is so grimdark in nature that all you have to just see is turn the pages of our lore and see that there's just so much of grimdark there. A lot of people have said that grimdark is this reaction to the Harry Potter and the moralistic lines of Narnia. Uh, is this? Do you also view this as a counterculture movement? The whole grimdark fantasy
Um,
euphoria that
I mean,
exists right now? Yeah.
for sure, there are aspects of that. When I first sort of started writing fantasy, all of the books, the covers were like, really good looking people with fantastic hair and washboard abs, and there's a hero with a heroic arc, the chosen one, and all that shit. And at the time I was, sort of in a darker place. And I thought that was bullshit. I mean, you look at the people around you and you've got all these people blundering through life and learning so little. Like this idea that everyone has this character arc where
Yeah.
they are changed and they're better at the end of it. It's
Yeah.
like you watch people go through life and, they die, and pardon my language, they die the same shitty people they were in high school. So I wanted to write a story where, like, I mean, the whole idea, I had the title Beyond Redemption before I wrote the first word. The idea was these characters don't improve. There's no
Right.
heroic arc. They're not heroes. They don't all learn something and turn out to be fantastic people at the end. They are beyond redemption.
Ah, wow, that's amazing. It's curious that I followed a similar path when it came to the title of Sons of Darkness as well, that I thought of the title first before writing. But my journey was so different because my book is a reimagining of an ancient tale, which was, it's from the Hindu religion, which divides the society into good and bad. What I did was take the bad characters and try and give them motivations so that the whole black and white divide is gone and see the gray in it. So I was trying to bring them back from the muck, whereas you were showing that no, there's no arc, there's a zigzag, which comes back to the same thing. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I think you've got it exactly right. I mean, in reality, there are very rarely good guys and bad guys. They're evil is this sort of it's a tool for manipulation, right? People tend not to be actually evil. Everyone's sort of working towards some goal that they think is going to work.
Yeah.
And then the other side goes, oh, they're evil. You should probably go off to war now. And that's bullshit. Like,
I mean, one
so
man's freedom fighter
Grimdark.
is another man's a terrorist. The whole
Exactly.
concept. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You were talking about book covers, and your book covers are so interesting with amazing monsters. But from all the book covers that I have seen, your book covers deviate from the norm of titles in the sense the title font. It has got a very sense of adventure, Percy Jackson vibe. On the other hand, all the grimdark books or all the epic fantasy books that I do see, including mine, have a sort of Times New Roman vibe. I don't know what the right term to use is, but your titles have a very 3D vibe, like they're coming for you. So was that a conscious choice on your part or designer's part?
Yes and no. So I work really closely with my artist. These days it's Felix Ortiz. He does all my cover art. In each case, what I do is I send him 3 or 4 scenes from the book, and I ask him to pick which scene he wants to do for the cover. I don't want to tell him what scene to do. I want him to do whichever one is going to move him the most. And then once he's picked a scene, we sort of hammer out details and we go back and forth figuring that out. So for me, there's a couple of things, and it's purely selfish. I want a book cover that I can blow up into a great big stretched canvas poster, kind of like that guy there.
Nice.
And put up on my wall, either in my office or somewhere else in the house. That's just for me. So I want to love my book covers. I want to think, yeah, that's really cool. That's cool enough. I'm going to put it up at home. And part of it also is, I guess, the era in which I grew up reading fantasy, which is like 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. So you've got a lot of Michael Whalen art, sort of actual paintings were the normal for fantasy covers, none of this sort of like photo manipulation crap. And so I wanted to get that kind of look as well. I wanted a bit of a classic fantasy look, but combined with probably, a heavy metal album.
Right. I think that's the best. I think heavy metal meets Greek classics is the best way I can describe your covers, because it has those Hydra kind of monsters and this whole heavy metal kind of band. Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think I love your book covers. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. And then font choice is just something, there. Felix does a lot of the font typography for me. Mm-hmm. And it's really just trying to find something that pops, that's going to catch the eye a bit. And he's got so much going on in his artwork. There's so much detail going on in there.
Yeah.
Finding a font and a color that will actually sort of stand out on top of all that is a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So a personal question now. Could you describe, do you stay with your family? Are you married? If that's something which I can ask.
Yeah, sure. So I live in Brampton, Ontario, which is just north of Toronto. I live with my wife and my daughter. Right. We've got a little house in the suburbs. It is very quiet here. It's sort of, idyllic suburbia kind of thing.
Completely opposite to the worlds which you write.
Oh yeah, my life is nothing like my books. Right. I spend my days writing. I record music for fun, sort of as a hobby. And I'm basically just trying to be a good dad.
That's amazing. Actually, there's a reason why I asked you that question, is that if you find out, that your daughter, for example, was reading your book or your wife read your book, and there is this scene which I constantly describe to my friends, about the mirrorist, for example, is one scene in Pure Redemption. It just, it took me time to recover. Is that something which you are skeptical of, that no, I need to keep my books hidden or shielded? Is that something, a concern that bothers you? Or no?
No, not really. I mean, my daughter is too young to read the stuff I write. Right now, she's 12. Okay. But in a couple of years, I have no doubt she will pick up one of my books and sort of look through it.
Yeah.
My wife reads my books. My mom reads my books. I have to sort of when I'm writing, I pretend no one is going to read it. Like every book, it's just sort of tunnel focus on the story. I have to pretend the world doesn't exist. No one is ever going to read my books. I'm so good at convincing myself no one is going to read my books. When I get like fan mail or somebody mentions me on Twitter, or I get a review or something, I'm always confused. I'm kind of like,
The power
someone
of
read that?
delusions
Like,
then.
oh crap. Yeah, my delusions manifest themselves.
That's amazing, because I wish I wrote a decoy book for my grandparents, because this my Sons of Darkness is this reimagining of an ancient tale which is still considered religious by a lot of factions in India. And so when my grandfather asked me to read this book, I was petrified, because it just sunk in that, okay, now he will read the violent scenes I've written with characters he probably worships every day. So that's why I wanted to just ask you, like, is that something which concerns you? But that's amazing that you are open to it. Third thing I want to ask you is that there's the critics that who come after Grimdark. Of course, every genre has their own sense of criticism. Is that what is the point of such gratuitous display of violence? Uh, it makes it something like like a gladiator display, which is just bloodthirst, mindless bloodthirst. Like, what do you have to say to that?
So there are, it's like any genre, right? There are different sort of levels. There are different books within the grimdark genre. Some stuff is gratuitously violent, and it's obviously gratuitously violent, like the author is writing for shock value.
Yeah.
Personally, that bores the shit out of me. Like I have no interest in that. To me, if the story calls for it, if the only way to tell the story that you're trying to tell is to include that violence and that level of sort of a graphic violence, then you need to do it. For me, I want to tell the story, and I want to tell it right, and I want to put the reader there. So if I write a really graphic scene, it's because I want to put all of that in the reader's head. I don't want to gloss over that stuff. I want the reader to understand how awful this one moment is. So is that too much for some readers? Absolutely. And people don't like it. Like, cool, don't read it. Go read heroic fantasy. Go read Percy Jackson. Like, they're great stories. There's nothing wrong with those. Like, go enjoy your books.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I feel the same way. Like, it's like violence for the sake of violence is not something which I enjoy, but when it is organically inserted into the chapters, it just adds so much value and depth, especially when it comes to the sense of realism, because this is something which also happens in the real world. So I'm completely with you on that. Now, coming to the name of the characters, right? The one thing which I was worried about when I was writing the book was that I could not change the name. It's a retelling, it's a reimagining. So I was using Sanskrit names from ancient Vedic, ancient Indian mythology. So I was worried that that name might be too much for Western readers. It luckily did not turn out to be so. I'm really happy with that. But was that a concern with you? Because I'm just talking about Beyond Redemption, because I've just been introduced to your books and I've loved it. But Beyond Redemption relies on a lot of very heavy German words. And like I took, so I took a year course in German. I was stayed there in Germany for 3 months, but it still took me a lot of, like, I couldn't grasp the words initially which were written. So was that something which you deliberately, consciously did? You went for those German words, even though knowing that it might be difficult to pronounce?
Yeah, so we have to sort of look at that in context. So I wrote Beyond Redemption in 2009. I had no published books at that point. I had no reason to think I would land an agent. I had no reason to think the book would be picked up by a publisher. When I wrote Beyond Redemption, I thought my 6 really close friends would read it. And that's it. I didn't expect anyone else on the entire planet to ever read it. So for me, what I was doing with all the German names and place names and people was I was hiding little Easter eggs about the characters, about story arcs and stuff in the German. And I was using Google Translate like mad, and not particularly well either because I don't speak German at all.
Oh, you don't?
No,
That's
not at all.
whoa.
So
That's a big reveal. Okay.
yeah, so I was just having fun because no one was ever going to read it. It didn't matter. And then I finished the book 2000, okay, whatever, 2014, I guess. Landed an agent 2015. The book was published by Harper Voyager worldwide. And then all of a sudden, there's all my terrible German out there, which none of that got changed. The publisher just was like, yeah, cool, left it all in. They liked the Germanic sort of influence. They liked the sound of the names. I mean, it's very, very grimdark, very harsh.
Yeah.
And so, after that, I was kind of stuck with all this sort of crazy, silly German stuff I did for fun. So in the sequel and then in the other standalone stuff, I had to stay with the same naming conventions I'd set up. So I really kind of walked into that one.
That's amazing, because right before this interview, I was trying to research into your profile to see whether you have any German ancestry or whether you have any friends who are German. But I thought maybe you took a semester in Berlin, and that led to this. But this is amazing, and I'm so thrilled that Google Translate helped you come up with this amazing concepts. So yeah, that's great. All right. The last question I want to ask you before we head into the rapid fire is the issue of rape in books. It's considered a very sensitive subject. What is your, like, for example, George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, which is like definitely the lodestone which inspired me to write my book. The top 3 reviews on Goodreads, which the top most liked reviews, are 1-star ratings. And they all have a problem with depiction of rape in the book. And the 4th most liked review is that of Mark Lawrence, who is criticizing the first 3 reviews, saying that this is a reflection of those times. How can these 1-star reviews be liked so much? Yeah. So how do you deal with this concept? Because as a society, we are very much okay. It's easy to absorb and assimilate murder, gore. But when it comes to the idea of violence against women, it becomes a very sensitive topic. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so that really is tricky. I mean, if you read history at all, rape happened. That is just a fact. And I guess if you're trying to write historically accurate stuff, then it perhaps should be in there, or at least it's sort of defensible that it's in there. Personally, I won't write a rape scene. I won't put a rape scene in a book. If it's too easy for that to slide into, for me, what would be like uncomfortable ground. Like, are you including a rape scene as historical detail? Are you like attempting to titillate the audience with this? Like, I don't want that at all. That's not the kind of story I want to tell. So yeah, that I just stay away from that. That for me, that's uncomfortable ground. I don't want to go there.
Absolutely. I because I'm with you on that. And so there is, in India right now, there's a big issue which is going on legalization of illegalization of marital rape. That is basically rape after marriage, which is not illegal in India yet, even though it's illegal in a lot of other places. And sometimes what we write is a reflection of the times we find ourselves in. And hence, I did write about that. But I guess my theory is that if you're not, as you so well put, that if you're not writing that scene to titillate the readers rather than, use it to, I don't know, establish strong ground for feminism or women's rights, it perhaps is okay, but I think you need to have a lot of sensitivity to around that subject.
Yeah, and if it's part of your culture, and that's what you're writing about, and you're sort of you're working to expose something and sort of bring it into the light and say, like, this is something that needs addressing. That's something very different than sitting in your comfortable little house in Brampton, writing a graphic rape scene.
So after that grim point, I think we're going to head to the fun aspect of this interview, which is the rapid fire round. So I hope your questions are rapid, answers are rapid and fiery. I hope my questions are as well. First question: which book do you think is overrated?
Crap, Brandon Sanderson.
All right.
That's gonna get me in trouble, but whatever.
We are here for that. All right. Which is your one pet peeve about reviews on either Goodreads or Amazon or blogs, wherever? What's the one thing? Yeah.
Right. To me, reviews tell you more about the reader than they do about the book, because every reviewer brings themselves into it, and every reviewer gets something different. I mean, if you've written a bunch of books or written a book with enough reviews,
Right.
you can skim through them and they will flip back and forth. This was amazing. This was the best written. The characters are stunning. The next review will be the writing is childish. This person's a moron. They can't write. Characters were garbage. And it'll just flip back and forth.
All right. Okay. Gotcha. What did you edit out of your first book?
Crap. Edit out. First book I wrote was Ghosts of Tomorrow. I had a long scene with one character talking to his sister about having children, because I think my wife was pregnant at the time, maybe, I can't remember. But it didn't go anywhere, and it was really boring, and it was more all about me, and it didn't serve the book. So
Gotcha. Okay, if you were to ever write under a pseudonym, what name would you choose for yourself?
Dirk Ashton.
All right. Okay, nail that. What is your writing kryptonite?
Sorry, my writing schedule like?
Writing kryptonite, like something which if it's around you, you just can't write. Yeah.
Social media is pretty bad. So what I do these days, I've got a laptop. I stripped everything off. The only thing it has is Word and a Wi-Fi connection, so I can save into the cloud. I write downstairs, away from the office and all my fun stuff up here, because otherwise I end up goofing off.
All right, nice. Okay. Which is the one author profile you always check out the tweets from on Twitter?
Author profile. Probably Mark Lawrence quite a bit. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. What's the best review your book received? Any of your books? Like which stayed with you even now?
Well, the only one the first review that came to mind was a single sentence for, I think it was Beyond Redemption, and it just said total BS.
Okay. All right. Okay. Would you like your book to be a Goodreads sensation or a TikTok sensation?
TikTok sensation will sell a hell of a lot more copies.
That's definitely the practical choice. Okay, fine. Kill, marry, or hook up. You have to choose 3 characters. Galadriel, Maleficent, and Legolas.
Definitely marry Maleficent, because I just got to think for bad girls. What was it? Kill, marry, or hook up?
Yeah.
Oh wait, now I want to hook up and marry Maleficent. No use for Galadriel at all. I guess I gotta kill the elf. I feel bad about that. There's nothing wrong with him.
All right. That's nice. Has your newfound hate for Galadriel come after Rings of Power, or did it always exist?
No. I loved Lord of the Rings as a kid. As an adult, it's less interesting. Like I tried to read The Hobbit to my daughter, and I was like, oh my God, it's so boring. But that's me.
Okay, gotcha. Are you aware with the Harry Potter world?
I haven't read any Harry Potter books. I haven't seen any of the movies, so I have no idea. I don't know anything about that.
Then let me rephrase this question. As a writer, which creature would you choose as your mascot or your spirit animal?
Definitely the dragon. Love dragons.
Yeah. All right. So next question, which is your favorite dragon book apart from Game of Thrones? I mean, the Song of Ice and Fire, in case if that was your answer.
Yeah, I'd have to go back to the classics, the stuff I read as a kid, Dragon Riders of Pern, and McCaffrey. Those are probably the ones that stayed with me the most.
Okay, that's amazing. All right. Is there any book which you wrote long back that is still lurking in your drawer somewhere because you think it's not good enough yet?
Nope. I have published every book I've written. Mind you, I only really started writing seriously in like 2008, 2009. And I guess I got really lucky.
That's amazing.
So I have no old books, and I think I published 10 or 11 with a couple more on the way.
That's amazing. Okay. Which is your favorite rock band?
Sorry, my favorite
rock band, like a music
rock band.
Yeah.
Okay, it changes all the time. Iron Maiden is the classic answer.
Yeah.
Silosis is probably the current answer.
All right, cool. Which is the last one again?
Silosis.
Okay, I haven't heard this one. I'll definitely check this out. Okay, cool. You have 4 more questions to go. Next, which is the most difficult part of your artistic process when you sit down to write?
Actually, writing. Spending time thinking about the story is fun, but finishing the book, you're in love and you start, and you're like, this is amazing, and then you get to the middle part and you're like, this is really hard. Why am I doing this?
Okay, good. Okay, have you ever said anything rude to a reader?
No.
Okay. Have you said anything ever rude to another author?
Oh, hell yeah. I do a podcast with Rob Hayes, Derek Ashton, and Jed Hearn, and we are constantly rude to each other. So I have been rude to writers many, many times.
That's friendly rude. That doesn't count. You know what I mean? Like in an aggressive,
okay.
confrontational way. Okay.
I'm just not a mean person. Like if I've got something nasty to say about someone, I will keep it to myself.
I'm just like coming to terms with the fact that you really are a nice person. That's just amazing how authors are so disassociated with the personalities of the characters in the book. So I love the irony that exists there. Okay. If you had to choose one book cover or a series of book covers which will replace your current ones, like at gunpoint, which book cover would you choose?
I love the classic Elric books, the early Stormbringer covers.
My God, because if someone actually goes through that cover, they will not expect to read what they are going to read. So that's going to be definitely a nice surprise for anyone opening that book. That's amazing. Okay. Your last question. Just a second. Okay. What is the one book you wish you had written?
Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. I love that book. Absolutely love it. So smartly written. I still want to do a fantasy version of Catch-22 somehow.
That would be amazing. Okay, that's definitely a good comp title to go up on Goodreads. That's great. Well, that was your rapid fire round, and you were brilliant, Michael. That was really fast. I think so far I've done 3 episodes, and you were the best. So you've set the standards rather high.
It's because the other writers, they suck. They're terrible. Who was it anyway? Who were we
Finally,
dissing?
you said something rude. So maybe next time.
Yeah. I don't know who I'm talking about, so I can
You're talking about Zamal Akhtar, who wrote the Gunmetal Gods series, and you're talking about Aparna, who's Phoenix King, who just got taken up by Orbit. So yeah, definitely the South Asian community is going to unite against you for sure.
Yeah, I'm totally in trouble.
So that's amazing. So any plans for Halloween? Are you dressing up as something? Do you celebrate Halloween?
No, my job is to escort my daughter around the neighborhood for trick-or-treating stuff. Cute. It rains every Halloween here, so I carry an umbrella, which she stands under, and I get rained on.
Oh, that's just adorable. Wow. But thank you, Michael. It was such a pleasure having this conversation with you. I hope you had a good time as well, and I hope people watching this, please definitely go check out Michael's books. They are just beautiful worlds to be scared of. So in case you're looking for a nice spooky book this Halloween, Michael is the one to go for. So thank you, Michael. Yeah. Cheers.